Good evening. I'd like to call the regular meeting for January 9th to order. First order of business is the agenda. Administration, do we have any additions?
No, Your Worship.
Do we not have one under confidential?
We do have the two.
Okay. Staff and council, do you have any additions that you wish to make? Deputy Mayor?
I'll move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Discussion, all in favor? That is carried unanimously. We do not have any delegations. There's no public hearing. There's no business arising from the minutes. We'll move on to business. 6.1, municipal asset management funding.
Hello.
Manager Thuris.
Good evening. So I'm here tonight to present on the municipal asset management program that the town is looking to apply for this year. So as we move forward with implementing our asset management program, we're looking for grant funding opportunities. And FCM has a municipal asset management program that we could apply for. So we're seeking for the 2021 asset management efforts. We're looking for $25,000 for the implementation of an asset management software program and $25,000 towards the training and staff remuneration for 2021. So with that, it's obtaining a summer student that will go out and do the collection and assessment of data throughout the town. So for the MAP funding, it covers up to 80% of total eligible project cost to a maximum of $50,000 for individual applications. And in order to apply for this funding, a resolution from council is required. So we're seeking, so the financial implications. So as the MAP funding can cover up to 80% of the total eligible costs, the town commits $10,000 of budget towards this initiative. And the 2021 will allocate $10,000 for that position. So administrative recommendation that council move to proclaim the MAP program funding application, or alternatives that council does not move to proclaim the MAP funding proclamation, and that council send it back to administration for further information.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Olford?
Not so much as for what this funding's for. If we can get some grants, it's great. But I'm kind of curious. Do we just need a resolution, or why are we proclaiming this? It seems a little different. I've never seen us have to proclaim this.
That's what they're looking for as part of their application. So we have to submit that we have council support.
Anyone else on council have questions or comments? Councilor Stenbeck?
So if for some reason you do not get the funding, will the entirety of the cost be added to the 2021 budget then?
I believe so. That would be impressive. For the software program?
Yeah, so Your Worship, through the chair, we would go through and look at the salaries and the effort of work that's needed for the asset management components, look at the current time allocation that our salaried people have been using for that, and then we'd either look at bringing forward a half-time position or be allocating different parts of the salary to the 2021 budget.
And we anticipate to hear back from them before budget deliberations.
Any further questions? Councilor Taylor?
Yeah, in the information, it says that it be further resolved that the town of Blackfalds commit $10,000 from the 2020 budget. So that's already in the budget?
It's not specifically in the budget, but we have some room in staff.
We have rooming in that. Okay.
Councilor Taylor?
Then I'm prepared to move the administrative recommendation.
Any discussion or debate? All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to the Health Committee and CEO Thompson.
Thank you, Worship. I'll present this for Economic Development Officer Harte. So we've been looking at the physician recruitment through the Economic Development Tourism Committee for the last while. We had Colleen Lindholm from RPAP come and provide a presentation to staff along with Rebecca Seidel. That took place last December, and then they came as a delegation and did a presentation for council on February 25th. Subsequent to that, Mayor Poole and I met with health services officials in Red Deer in February to look at some options and assistance in establishing a physician attraction and retention committee, and looking at what our needs and what opportunities there was with us to network with their group. We've also had 2 community tours to prospective physicians this year, one on January 30th and one on April 4th. And so we're looking at those possibilities that we'll see some benefits from that process. RPAP was advised that Blackfalds or Blackfalds and Area Health Professional Attraction and Retention Committee should be a good first step to assist us in physician retention. They provide tools, education, and support, and normally the Health Professional Attraction and Retention Committee is made up of a number of people from the community, including healthcare professionals, community members, members of municipal government, primary care network, chamber of commerce members, etc. There's no roadmap to how that committee would be. A lot of the committees can be formal, they can be very informal. They vary from community to community. The Economic Development Office did some research of some communities, including Moorhead, Sundre, Olds, Camrose, Vegreville, and Pembina, and revealed that most of these are working group committees and community-based, and not so much as a council-appointed committee. There will be members that come and go over the number of years, but this committee will likely stay in place for the long term. Administration will be recommending that initial internal information meetings be held to first establish a solid framework for us to move forward, and to get a base plan and what the membership would look like when we form that. And ideally, we'd like to see that in place so that we can register for the RPAP conference October 6th and 8th in Great Valley, should that conference still be held. Having that framework and base plan is important, instead of just bringing a bunch of community members and then trying to establish something from there. So we would kind of build a foundation for that. The financial implications, really, to form this committee, there is no financial implications. We have had some costs in touring prospective physicians. We know that once the committee is established and looking at ways, of providing offerings to try to bring people in, there might be some expenses there, but that would be further down the road in our budget planning. Therefore, based on the information tonight, we're looking for 3 recommendations. One, that council move to direct administration to proceed with the formation of a community-based health professional attraction and retention committee, and that will function as a working group. The council appoint a member of council to serve as a core working member of that group, and further, the council direct administration to formalize a working relationship between the health professional attraction and retention committee and RPAP, and to arrange for RPAP conference registration.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions? Councilor Powell?
Thank you. So my question is, how, if if we direct administration to proceed with the formation of this committee, how will we be reaching out? Or will we be reaching out to people to be on this committee, or will we be advertising that this is a committee and give people the opportunity who wish to be involved to come to us?
I think we'll probably be reaching out to parties within the community, similar to, I believe, what we did with the Cannabis Group, people that have background and experience in health services that can play a vital role in the community. So that's initial plans that we had, although we're open to suggestions by council.
Follow-up, or subsequent, thank you. My only question was that, or thought with that, is that we might have people in our community that are, might be a really good fit for this committee that we don't know about yet.
Well, definitely, we could look at a hybrid where, if we want to have somebody from the Chamber of Commerce and somebody, say, from, say, one of the pharmacies, and then we could have 2 or 3 committee members that could be from the general public and look at invitations. And we could look at something like that. We haven't definitely didn't determine how we would go forward at this point.
Thank you.
Councillor Stenbeck?
So I just have a comment. I don't foresee any resident having or raising any concerns over dollars spent to attract doctors and healthcare services to our community. These are things that have been asked for as long as I have lived here. I certainly support it, and I'm totally certain that our residents do as well. I think it's an excellent use of our economic development dollars. And seeing as I have a healthcare background, I would very much appreciate it if council would consider appointing me as a council representative to serve on the committee.
Councillor Hoover?
And my question, since this is something that was brought to us from economic development, and in their terms of reference, they can create subcommittees. Is there a reason why this wasn't considered as a subcommittee of economic development, at least initially, until we can decide on the structure and the format?
Your worship, through Councilor Hoover, I don't know the answer to that question. I could find out, but I know that the subject has been talked about at the economic development tourism committee. However, some of the work that the economic development officer and myself have moved forward, I think, has brought it about to the position that we're at now. Definitely, it could be, I guess, requested of the economic development tourism committee to take it further as well. I mean, that would be an option.
Councillor Stenbeck?
If I may, I was actually on economic development and tourism committee when that first came forward. I was the person who brought that initiative forward because it was something that our residents had asked for when I was campaigning. I do not think that it is appropriate for the economic development tourism committee to sub-chair or have a subcommittee based off of the fact that it is a healthcare and a community-wide initiative. I do think that we need to open that up as a separate committee and allow community members who may have some investment in that to come forward.
Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, I know in attracting a doctor, we've worked at this for years in doing this, and some of the barriers that can be there, I think, the part is attracting, but also knowing, what is it that we need to lobby for? For example, in the past, an item that had come through to council was of not having the opportunity to work up to have surgeries or be able to do things in a hospital. Is that a barrier? And we lobbied through Alberta Health Services, and then we discovered that the doctor himself didn't want it. He used that, but didn't do that. So, but there can be barriers and there can be opportunities. And in our part, one thing our council has always been good is having working relationships with the ministers and being able to make sure that some of those barriers are, come down or opportunities are given. Because I think there are unique opportunities for a doctor to come to Blackfalds because we are centered between 2 substantial hospitals, and if they're doing smaller surgeries, or maybe there's an opportunity. I know one thing: we have a lot of babies, and somebody who wants to be a baby doctor, this is the place to be.
Thompson?
Definitely, when we met in Red Deer with H&S representatives, I think we really received some good information on the challenges that were before us and some of the roadblocks that have been there before, but also some of the opportunities for us to improve our situation. So we did take notes there, and I've shared them with our economic development officer, and so that gives us some opportunities to kind of move this up the ladder.
Any other comments? As we are dealing with this as a whole, I've been working fairly hard on the initiative as well, so I will also ask to put my name forward as to be appointed to this committee. Again, I think it's a very important initiative. We've worked through it. I've been in a couple of meetings. It was with the first doctor that came to town, as was Councillor Taylor, and a lot of the lessons that we learned there, I think, can be brought forward on this. So, any other comments? Councillor Hoover.
Yeah, my question is, I mean, obviously there's significant interest from many members and even council. Is there any reason why we're limiting this to one? I mean, most committees have
we can have two, and
two members, at least of council. I would support having multiple members from council.
That might be an advantage if there was one who wasn't able to make it or anything to be able to pass on the information. So we have 3 requests for motions in front of us. The first one, Councillor Powell.
Oh, I was prepared to move the first recommendation.
Would you go ahead, please?
Yes, please. I move that council move to direct administration to proceed with the formation of the community-based health professional attraction and retention committee that functions as a working group.
Debate on that motion? All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Councillor Hoover?
I prefer to move number 2 amended. The council appoint 2 members of council to serve as core working members of HPARC committee.
And I think as we work through the initial stages of it, if we find that that is over heavy from council, then we can amend that as necessary. Debate on that motion? All in favor? That is carried unanimously. And the third motion.
I will move the council direct administration to formalize the working relationship between the HPARC and RHPAP and to arrange for RHPAP conference registrations.
Debate on that motion? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. I'd like to thank administration for continuing their work on this. It is a very important initiative within our town, and I'm excited that we move forward to another step.
Welcome.
6.3, our county
Point of order.
today fireworks.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My question was just for administration. Would you like us to appoint those council members now? Would you like an additional motion to appoint those council members?
We might as well formalize it, sure.
In that case, I would like to make a motion
Go ahead.
that we approve Councillor Stendy and Mayor Poole to sit on the HPARC.
Thank you. Do we need that as a formal motion, or can it be part of number 2?
We can make it part of number 2 if you don't mind amending it.
Friendly.
Friendly amendment? Councillor Taylor?
Just a comment, I do support that motion, but just one of the comments earlier is we as a council have been working for doctors for years, and it's not just one person that has been doing that or made that part of what they've been doing. So, but I do support that because Councillor Stendy, because you do have the opportunity with the boards, you kind of got the light end, and I support that for that reason, and I believe and I support the passion you have in that. But I don't think it's for you to say you're the only one standing up for our doctors in our community. I do support you in that motion, though.
Councillor Stendy?
I did not say that I was the only one. I'm sure if you'd like to
You
watch
say when I'm the
that.
one, it comes across that.
I think the comment that was made actually was that I have experience in medical, and that's the part that I have. So, would you like to read out the amendment of your motion,
Yeah.
or your friendly amendment?
Well, I'll just read the whole thing with including the amendment, I suppose. The council appoint 2 members of council to serve as a core working member of HPARC those members being Councillor Stende and Mayor Poole.
So are there any objections or points of order to that amendment? Then we will re-vote on it. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. So now, Director Barnes, we will move to 6.3, which is our Canada Day fireworks.
Thank you, Worship Council. Of course, this is a special event permit for the Canada Day fireworks on July 1st. We're just trying to be proactive on this, and hopefully that on July 1st we can fire them off. Now with stage 2, we're kind of going through to digest what happened today, so we're hoping that we can fire them off on July 1st. If not, we can store them and fire them off in August or September, so we can safely store them at the operations centers. We're just trying to digest all that stuff, like I said, for the second launch. And hopefully that will have our Abbey Center open by next Friday. Not this Friday, next Friday. So it's kind of 3-day notice doesn't help us.
So the Minister of Economic Development, Ferg, sent out an email that outlined the changes and the announcements that were made today. I forwarded that to Council. And I guess one question that I will have as we move forward is how does administration wish Council to interact and to approve or to share their concerns with information after it comes from the Emergency Management Committee on Thursday? And I guess that we can have that discussion later.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the fireworks. Councillor Stende?
I am prepared to move to approve the special event application permit for the Canada Day fireworks planned for July 1st, 2020, pending provincial approval.
Thank you, Councillor Stende. Is there any debate on that motion? I think it's interesting to note as this comes forward that we have a committee or a group of local residents that are instrumental in providing this fireworks year in and year out. Is that not correct?
You gotta need some sugar for this.
This group has been working and they save us tens of thousands of dollars by each year with their ability to put on the demonstration. And it is exciting, and they are such a committed group within our community. I think that we need to thank them each and every opportunity that we get. We have a motion on floor. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. We will now work for the municipal utility temporary relief and Director DeBresser.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. So before you have a request to extend the municipal temporary penalty for utilities. As you're aware, the March 24th meeting, Council directed the administration to remove the penalty charges for late payments for March, April, and May for individuals facing financial hardship during these unique times. So we're back again. We're looking for a motion. Our recommendation is for another 3 months, and that will bring us to the end of August. So our recommendation tonight is that Council move to accept the recommendation of administration to temporarily waive municipal utility fees upon request to the town for municipal utilities for the period of June, July, and August. Approximately, we've had 170 people apply for the temporary relief. So the financial implications are still minimal in the scope of the utilities, but they're estimated around $40,000 for those extra 3 months. And that's split between the 3 utilities as well. As you may be aware, we made some changes to the utility bills, and it was a nice time to bring you up to speed as well. Administration had a software upgrade that allowed us to convert our gallons to cubic meters. And that software upgrade allowed us to change the bills to better align the way that we budget, as well as bill per cubic meter. A few of the changes that we did make to the bills is splitting out the bills into the 5 different sections. Firstly is consumption. We have a myriad of meter reading equipment out there. Some are in gallons, some have a 4-digit extension, some have an 8-digit extension, and based on the meter read here, you have to apply a multiplier to get it into cubic meters. So the example that I gave here is,
Do we have that example on the screen?
that's correct.
That's the first one.
That's the first one, so that kind of looks like how the bills were without, converted into cubic meters there. So if you took the meter read before and after, you get around 14,836. That doesn't really mean too much. You need to times it by 0.001, and then you get your cubic meters. So cubic meters here is listed as 15. If you do the conversion, it's actually 14.83. We chose to round at this stage. We have got the option to go to 2 decimal places. We chose the whole number, and if you want to direct that we go to a decimal place, we can. The reasoning behind that is just, it's a cleaner number, people can kind of understand what that is, and it does round down as well. So if you had 14.4, 14.45, it would round down to 14 cubes. This one rounded up. The only situation where somebody would be disadvantaged if they moved and it rounded up. So there's a very, very slim chance that you may get rounded up on the month that you moved, if that makes sense, because it goes from the previous meter read to the current meter read. So that's kind of the first line there. We tested today that we went to the 2 decimal places if need be. So as you can see, there's a $57 in the water usage line, which is technically incorrect. So within that $57, there was a $17 base charge. And that base charge is pretty much, if there's no consumption, we need to recoup some revenue to pay for the utilities. So that kind of got broken out of there. You can see in the second example, your water usage at your $2.72 a cube equals your $40.80. Next line down, the base rate there is 17.06, and we split out the water infrastructure as well. So the water infrastructure goes into the reserve to pay for repairs and maintenance, relining, twinning lines, those type of examples. So that goes into a separate pool of money, and we put that into a reserve that we can draw on there if there's any major upgrades and whatnot. We still are under the impression talk about the philosophy about paying for new infrastructure, should we draw from reserves or offsite levies. So we're still throwing around that idea. In the 10-year capital plan, we do have a list of projects that are funded through the water and wastewater reserves. We do have some lift stations, sanitary upgrades, reservoirs, pumps for water, and there is a project in there for water supply line 20. So that leads us down to the wastewater. We broke out that again. Wastewater is charged at $3 a cubic meter based on the water consumption, and of course the base rate there for wastewater as well. So that kind of gives you a wrap up. The bills did not change, they did not go up, they did not increase, there was no extra charges, we just made it a little bit more transparent, which we thought we were doing, and this is the way, like I said, we're going to budget. I think at the standing committee coming up, we've got a new utility bylaw review coming through for that, and this will be reflected in Schedule B, the rates. So going forward, you will have the budget set, you'll have a bylaw come with Schedule B, and that Schedule B will be reflective of the budget, whatever the rates may be. So this better just aligns the organisation from start to finish. I think that's what I wanted to kind of get across and kind of inform council tonight. So yeah, the recommendation, sorry, flipping back over to what we're here initially for, is the recommendation of allowing another 3 months worth of penalty. With that, I'll open up for some questions.
Thank you. Maybe we'll go first of all to the bill and have a discussion around any questions that you have on the bill, and then we'll move on to the actual motion that we're putting forward. I don't know which I saw first, Councilor Sene?
It's
Councilor Taylor?
He had his first.
So I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask this question. Currently, we're not expressing any changes to the rates that we're charging. We haven't changed the rates currently, other than what was in our budget session. Because I've seen questions out there like, have we just increased rates where people are most likely going to have changes to the water bill by either by consumption. So they either have a leaky toilet or they're watering their lawn, or they've had a lot of family, they're washing a lot of laundry. But we have not changed our rates in the current.
That is correct. The rates that are presented in both bills are that are reflected in the budget. It's probably a bad month to switch over a utility bill since spring is here and people are watering the lawn and bills subsequently go up with that.
Thank you, Councilor Cindy.
So you said that the only time that a resident would be at a disadvantage is if they moved.
Correct.
I disagree. If anyone is rounded up, they're at a disadvantage, especially if they happen to be rounded up regularly. If they happen to be that one person who, through no fault of their own, is at 0.8 every month, they're going to be rounded up every month and they are going to be charged for it. That's a disadvantage in my opinion. I would like to see this change to a 2-point decimal system so it's more accurate. No one should have to pay for what they're not using.
Correct. Just to Councilor Sandy's point, we do take a previous meter reading, that doesn't change. So I can understand that definitely if you have two months, but we always take the previous meter read with the new read me. That number doesn't change. I don't know the math behind it, like the probability of getting rounded up twice in a row. It could happen, but definitely we'll go to a 2 decimal place to alleviate it.
Thank you.
Councilor Hoover.
I think you just acknowledged that as something that's possible. I was just going to comment that I don't think people are intimidated by 2 decimal places. It might seem like it's cleaner, but I think just for pure transparency and fairness, we should do that if we're capable. Thank you.
So will it create any major difficulties in the billing system to move to a 2 decimal system?
No, good question. Yeah, no, we actually tested it today. We tested both the mechanism of rounding up and rounding down as well as going to 2 decimal place, and the answer was the same in which way we went. So definitely it's a switch of a button in there and the next month's bill to go to 2 decimal places.
Councilor Hoover?
If there's no other questions, I'm prepared to make,
Yes, I have.
okay.
So I have one concern and question that has been bothering me quite consistently, and that is our base rate that is marked down and is 1706. That is based on the fact that a residential have a 3/4 inch hookup and a business has a different amount depending on their hookup. Why is it advantageous to have the base rate as an addition rather than reflect it back into the water bill and actually charge the amount that is used in water as the actual bill, rather than have this base rate?
Yeah, so me and Director Warren had a great conversation today on the philosophy around utility bills and how do we grab 4 bits of money and put them where they need to go for future. So I'll have to reiterate my point that I made earlier is if everyone turned off the taps and didn't use any consumption, we need some revenue coming up from that base charge. We've got our infrastructure money going in for replacement. We need, we do have salaries, wages, our fixed costs that we do have to maintain. So definitely, through the budget process, we can explore that base charge. Some other municipalities have a higher base charge around the $27, and that includes, they pretty much combine the capital portion as well as the base charge, around the $27 to $30 range. It's not uncommon to have the base charge, but it does allow us to have that baseline revenue to make the utilities run.
And the reason I was interested in it is that another community gave information to RDR Mug had a different method of doing it, and their base rate was based on was figured out by utilizing an amount that they always charge for, and then if you go above that, then the amount that would be charged would be that amount minus the base rate. And my question that I came forward was, is there any flexibility in our community to change that base rate and utilize that? So from your experience, and I'll ask either yourself through CAO Thompson, either yourself or Director Warren, which is a more common method of of applying base rates?
Okay, I think referring to a tiered system is, in your base rate, you get, X amount of water, and then your base rate kind of has that built in, and then if you go over so many cubes, you're in the next tier, and then of course your cost goes up. That does a couple of things, is, water conservation, and we've got, the engineering kind of in the room here. I am not familiar with the system, I have seen it, there's pros and cons for it, of course. You do kind of penalize the higher water consumption. Outside the residential kind of sphere there, I would say, your car washes and whatnot that are high water usage. But my experience is having both the infrastructure and base charge just sitting over there as and then you pay per cube basically.
Yeah, I guess I'll just echo what Justin's saying. It's essentially just a different way to charge the base rate or the infrastructure services. It doesn't really matter whether you did one or the other. The reasoning behind this way is that you can budget it a lot easier, because otherwise you're going back and looking for actuals year over year. So the consumption with our regional commission is really easy to calculate. We provide them, our estimated per cubic meters of water use a year, and then they adjust on their end all their fixed costs. But for us, it just allows us to have a little bit more of a crystal ball to know that these dollars are coming in there, whereas the other way, you're actually going back and looking for actuals. And I guess further to that, this allows a little bit more transparency, and so that what happens when you've got a bigger water meter, you're actually paying a bigger base rate. So in essence, you're going to be using more water, so you should be paying a fair or a better proportion of the larger pipes that are in the road, for instance. Because in the residential area, you'd be looking at an 8-inch line if it's connected, and in the industrial area where you have a lot higher flows and a lot more of those bigger services like the 4 to 5-inch water services, you'd be into the neighborhood of 300 millimeter pipe plus, right? So one example of that would be the Broadway or the Blackfalds industrial way in there, where we've got a great big 400 pipe, because we've got the capacity there to bring up some of these big services. Hopefully that explains it.
That helps an awful lot. Councilor Stende.
So you said that other municipalities have higher base rates. Would you be willing to supply council at a later date, obviously not today, with the rates of our local surrounding municipalities so that council can compare the rates?
Most definitely. When could we defer that until budget conversions? Is that too far?
I would rather see them sooner rather than later.
Okay.
I'm not sure how the rest of council feels.
So, thank you for that. Are we anticipating reviewing the rates of any time between now and budget time?
No, you're right.
Councilor Powell?
Thank you. So just in the example that you had given then, so water infrastructure is more used for reserves and capital, and the water base rate is more used for operational?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
One thing that has changed with the utilities, especially on the wastewater side, is the cost on water and getting rid of water is somewhat fixed with the commissions. So those rates, lagoons are going and whatnot. It's cubic in, cubic out. It's you getting charged from the two commissions, so it makes it easy to budget in that sense, knowing that. But the risk for the wastewater has gone to the commission now, not so much this time, if that makes sense. And that kind of goes back to the point of a tiered system. With the town being so fixed to the commissions, other municipalities that have access to their water, treat their own water, and discharge their own water, a little bit more flexible. I would say almost a lower cost as well. So they can offer that lower cost. We pay $2.17 per cube of water to the commission. Do we want to reduce that rate under the commission's rate and essentially lose money where we charge $2.72. So it's a balancing act. At the end of the day, we need to recoup enough money to pay for the future as well as the usage today. So it's definitely a big philosophy around the whole tier system versus what we do here.
So CA Thompson,
Great. Yes, you're working.
given that we have a pretty good relationship with members on our water line and with all of our surrounding areas, would it be an honest exercise just to find out what that base rate is and provide it informally back to council?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. As the director mentioned, that we will be reviewing at budget time. I appreciate the fact that our director has considerable experience in water and wastewater and in working with the region commission. I think some of the work that him and Director Warren have done on this to improve our bill goes a long ways and make some improvements to our utilities.
So specifically,
So definitely we can bring that back informally and provide the council just for your information.
thank you very much. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, and I do have just one more question that's related / unrelated towards this. In regards to solid waste management, and this might be a better question for Director Warren. Do we have any news from our waste contractor in regards to recycling and when that program might be back up and running?
Yeah, so we did touch base, Laura actually touched base with our contractor a couple of weeks ago and said that was given the information that they're in the process of looking at bringing up the MRF back online, but it's going to depend on their time frame as well as the COVID work conditions that are outlined there. So, more to come, hopefully sooner than later.
Wonderful, thank you.
Any more questions regarding the utility bill? Then moving back to the motion that is actually in front of us regarding the relief. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding that? Deputy Mayor Olford?
Not seeing any either, so I'm prepared to move that. Council move to accept the recommendation of administration temporarily waive municipal utility penalties upon request to the town for municipal utilities for the period of June, July, and August 2020.
Thank you. Is there any debate on that motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and we apologize for the diversions that we sort of threw at you. We have no action correspondence and information items. First information item is development permit report for May 2020 year to date. (8.2) Protective Services Monthly Report. (8.3) Alberta Children's Services, letter from Minister Schultz. That's one of the things we'll be interested in with the opening will be to see how our joint efforts with McMahon might be able to be moved forward and the relationship we can develop and form with them regarding different services that we will be expecting. 8.4, provincial stimulus funding, letter from MP Calkins. Just want to comment that at the beginning of in the first 2 weeks or when the crisis was at its forefront, MP Calkins was instrumental in holding a couple of town halls for Central Alberta, bringing in members within his constituency and beyond. And he was very helpful in assistance during the COVID. In this, as you can see, he is a very vocal member for our community and continues to be, we thank him for his continued support. 8.5, West Area, Stormwater Management Plan. Did anybody wish some further comments on that? Is there anything that was really relevant on there that you felt should be?
No, I don't think so, Your Worship. I don't think council's had, there's been a lot of information provided to council in the past on this, but this is something that we were working on through the LK development and working with the province. So, some good news. So we just want to pass it on to council. I mean, definitely, if you have any questions, Director Warren is well versed in the process.
Councilors Taylor?
Yeah, there was a comment, I don't know if it was last council meeting, we heard feedback from one resident that's saying, we weren't concerned about the wastewater. And this just shows the steps that we have to go through to get our wastewater approved so that we can be doing the right things. And we are good stewards to our neighbors and, to the environment. And the effort that it takes to do something takes time. And it's not that we just can't do what we want to do right in the minute. We have to go through the steps, and this process continues as we go through. But it just shows that we are good neighbors and we do care about our neighbors. So I just wanted to, if somebody made that comment, might be able to catch that.
I concur with that. I think that we should be very proud of our stormwater management plans for our surrounding areas and the amount of work that we do to ensure that it is really upfront and very transparent. Any more comments from any of the 5 items? Not seeing any. Could I get a motion to accept for information? Councilor Stimmick?
I'll accept the information items as information.
Thank you. Debate, all in favor? Carried unanimously. Tonight is not round table. Reminder that everybody should have their information into our, are we sending it into yourself or to Lori?
Thank you, Laurie.
To Lori, in time for next month's meeting. Adoption of the minutes, May 26th. Any errors or omissions? Not seen any. Councilor Hoover?
I'll move that we accept the minutes from May 26th as presented.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. For good of the council, there's a reminder that we have the county news in our reading tray. Does any of the councilors have anything they wish to bring forward? It's amazing how little mail and information we've had coming into our mailbox, isn't it, C.O. Thompson?
Yeah, sure.
With that, we do have some confidential items. Does council wish to have a break tonight before we move in? Not seeing any. Then Councilor Bell?
I would move that council move into camera.
Okay, with that, we'll give a few minutes for staff to disperse.